All right, welcome to another episode of the Project Demiurge Podcast. I'm here with Rowlan, who's a really important dude because I've been following for a long time now, so I'm super pumped to talk to him about his music and stuff. So, yeah.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on here. I appreciate you listening for a long time too. That's really dope.
Yeah. So I just kind of want to talk to you about your music and stuff, kind of your journey and where you got, how you got to where you are now. Nothing too crazy or anything like that, but I know you originally you're from the Massachusetts area, right? Boston or something like that.
Yes, sir. It's a small town outside of Boston called it's like Cape Cod, Massachusetts. A little man-made peninsula, and it's like a little beach town. But I'm from a smaller town, which is on Cape Cod, called Harwich, Massachusetts, and it's like 12,000 people or something like that. Small area.
Yeah. So how'd you kind of get into music? How kind of tell me the story of how you got to where you are now, I guess.
Yeah, so my current manager and I were on the basketball team together. His name's Brandon, and we were in freshman year. It was during basketball season. I was over his house before a game night for basketball, and we just put on some some 50 Cent instrumentals on his computer speakers, and we had a little iPod Touch, and we were just recording little freestyles, joking around. And I don't know, I guess I found some type of outlet in it. I found some type of some vibe in it. So I ended up just realizing that it was very therapeutic for me to write down my thoughts and write what was going on in my life. So I ended up sticking with it, and I mean, here we are 9 years later, kind of continuing because it's A, therapeutic, and B, it's just what I love to do. You know, I really love making great music, and now it's how I pay my bills, and this is my job, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you kind of decide that you were gonna start did you automatically want to start taking it very seriously, or what kind of made you want to start taking it very serious, you know?
Pretty personal shit. When I was sophomore, I went to a new high school, and when I went to my new high school, I ended up doing music with a bunch of people who I thought were my friends, and I think this is what pushed me to take it a little bit more serious. But I was kind of joking with it, and I was kind of oh, this could be a thing. And then all of my friends that I was working with at the time, friends in quotation marks, they ended up setting me up and robbing my house for all my studio equipment and robbing me for everything that I had. So I think after that, it was just more of a my success is going to be my revenge type of deal. You know, I'm you're going to regret doing that, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's what pushed me to take it really serious. But all in all, I think the seriousness comes from just seeing results, you know, making, just seeing shit happen with my career, you know, seeing me level up, seeing me go to the next part, you know, et cetera, things like that.
Yeah. Did you get your stuff back, or did they just...
No, I didn't, and I was just I don't know. I was kind of like a bonehead when I was young, so I was thinking about yo, maybe I should get a gun, and then I'm maybe I should fight all these motherfuckers, and then I'm just there was a bunch of them, and I was small in high school, and I'm just it's probably not a good look. I'm just let me be my revenge. And one of the dudes, it was actually Hood. He's from Boston. He ended up selling all my shit in Boston, so no one even had it anymore, anyways.
Damn, dude, that sucks.
I mean, it taught me a lot of, it taught me a big life lesson, you know, lacking trust, don't trust everybody. It taught me keep people at a certain distance until a certain point, you know? So I think the life lesson was worth it for all the stuff that I had, you know?
Yeah. So that didn't discourage you at all to not want to make music? You just kept pushing on after that? You didn't even
I wouldn't say it discouraged me, because I felt at the time, the people who did that to me, I was the main one. I was the one doing all the recording, the mixing, the mastering. I was the one I put the money up for all the equipment. So I just felt you know, I wasn't discouraged. I was just okay, you're going to try this without me? That's cool. Because we had a rap group, so it was a tight circle. We used to do everything every day together and shit. So when that happened, I was just you're going to try to do this without me? Cool. Let's see who gets to the top first, you know?
Yeah, that's actually awesome. That's a good mindset to have. I feel you know,
now you can't even now you can't even find them. You can't even Google their name and find their music. So it's just you know, I feel you know, I feel I handled it the right way, and that was the best way I could have handled it. Not getting aggressive. I didn't go to the cops, nothing. It was just very like internal, like, okay, so this is what it's going to be. You know, I learned my lesson. This is what it's going to be, you know?
Hell yeah. So after that, did you kind of like keep your circle small? Was it just like you and Brandon, or like who
Yeah,
did
well,
you let around you?
yeah, Brandon was at, he was still at the first high school that I transferred from. So he was at that high school. So we weren't really close for like 2 years, like 2 or 3 years after that. And actually not even, we ended up like not even being close friends after that for a long time. And I stayed to myself. Like I had a girlfriend for like since I was 15 years old, all the way till I was like a couple years ago when I was 23 and out here in LA. So it was just me and her basically. And I just sat in my room. It's kind of crazy because like that was when I was 16, and since 16 I've had the same kind of mental and the same kind of like schedule. Like I just sit in my room every single day and just create music by myself. So like that's what it's been since that moment. I've always just like, ever since that happened, I'm very careful with who I bring to my house. I don't even like let people know where I live, and I think that's for the better. But just in general, it taught me that. But then Brandon reached out to me when I was already out in LA, and like the music was going good. He's like, "Man, you took this shit really far. It's been a long time. I would love to come out there and help with whatever I can." And I was like, Brandon has a degree in accounting, so I was like, you know what, you want to be my manager, bro? Like you could be my manager. You're good with numbers, you're good with talking to people, so that's what it is now, you know. So it's a crazy full circle thing. But I've always kept my circle small since, and I've just been a lot more cautious of like who I let around me, etc. You know.
Absolutely. That's probably the best way to do it too. I feel like, you know. Do you ever
It
feel?
kept me out of trouble, you know. It kept me from being like kind of jaded towards other people's point of views, and like I don't know, it kept me out of the party scene. It kept me just like working hard, you know, just like at the house working hard.
Yeah. So like when you were living in Boston, you're like what really started kind of like getting you to like pop off, you know? Because like you had to move out to LA, I know, and stuff. Like, was that kind of like I don't know, like a snowball effect, you know? Like it kind of started and then just like everything kept rolling, or like how'd that whole process start? Of, like your music taking off and then like you moving.
I would say it comes in like heavy waves. So like my first big thing, I did a remix. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. I did a remix to his "Nikes on My Feet" song, and I shot a really high-end visual with my boy Matt Johnson, who's like an amazing cinematographer. So, given the cinematography was way ahead of the music level, we put out the visual to "Nikes on My Feet," and I had a friend from back in Boston who owned an account called Hits Blunts. It's like the memes where you hit the blunt and then you start thinking.
Yeah.
And started thinking about random shit. There was a whole account for that, and he had like 2 million. So I was paying him like $20 or $40 a shout out, and I was flooding him with those. And he was shouting me out like 5 times a day to 1 million or 2 million people. So we got 100,000 views on that quick. That was my first big wave of like how the music came and how all my followers came, for the most part, you know. So that was the first big jump, and then I was like, I think it's time to move out to LA. So I moved out to LA, and I just started putting out a huge amount of music, like really working, like song. I saw how Russ did his whole come up. So I was like, you know what? Like if it's working for him, let me try this shit. Let me try giving them numbers. I've always put out a lot of music, but I was like, let's try a weekly thing or a bi-weekly thing. Just like, let's put out the numbers. And honestly, I will say outside of that and this entrepreneur named Gary Vaynerchuk, he came across my music and we had a sit down, and he told me if I make him a song, he'll help me push it. So I made a song after our meeting, and he pushed it like crazy. Like he don't even do shout outs that often, but he had his bio was just Rowlan's new song, and it was just the link to shit. So he gave me like a heavy shout out. So I saw a big wave from that. But outside of that, it's literally been a gradual slope. I mean, I'm 8 years in, and this is where I'm at. So it's been like a very gradual building. And so no real snowball effect happened. I had the Nikes on my feet, and I had the Gary V, but like outside of that, it's just been steady growth through like literal interaction and like talking to people and like liking posts, etc. You know, it's never been like a huge snowball effect, and I think this is the best way because it's built my character. It's helped me. It's made me build my craft. You know, I didn't get tossed into this big fame of sharks when I wasn't ready or musically there, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned the Gary thing. That's where I first heard about you was from like Born Hustler and stuff. But then after that, I like started listening to your music, like a lot of like your other stuff beforehand, like um like Worth It and like Forgiveness and stuff. Yeah, like I remember the exact name of the song. Ooh, I think I lost you for a second.
What was it?
I think I lost you for a second. Ooh. Hold on one second.
What did you say? Sorry, I missed.
Yeah, I think my connection must be kind of wonky. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Like I heard like Worth It and like is the song called like Forgiveness, like Forgive or Forgiving or something? Yeah, like and like
that was pretty big.
Yeah, and like Demons, like, and that's when I kind of like just became obsessed and like was totally like enthralled. But
I'm happy that you dove into that shit, especially like Demons. I feel like that's an underrated track, and it was very purposeful to me. So I'm glad you like that one.
Yeah. So like, what was it like? You know, like you've literally met Gary Vaynerchuk. Like he's like a fucking, you know, celebrity now. Like you have him in your corner. Yeah. Like how does that like feel? Like cool or?
I mean, it feels good. One thing, it's always like a great thing to have people like that in your corner, or always willing to like go to bat for you, and especially someone like him who's always trying to bring value. Like he's definitely one of the best people to have in your corner, because I could reach out to him tomorrow and be like, hey, could you shout this out? And he probably would. But with that comes the same realm of any other celebrity that I've ever connected with. And it's just like, if they're willing to bat for you, you don't want to hit them up about petty shit. You don't want to waste connection. You don't want to, you know. So it feels really good to have people of that level in my corner, or going to bat for me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, back to like the music with like.
My bad, bro.
No, you're good, dog. Don't worry about it. Back to like songs like, just like for me personally, like Worth It was one of like the best. Like that song has helped me through like, man, like I had some dark shit going on a couple years ago, like, or not a couple years ago, like about like a half a year ago, like, you know, like your music's literally like helped me as a person, like feel better, like, and like kind of like get on with like my life and stuff, and like. So that's like why this like really just means so much to me. But it's like, how does that like? How do you put that into like a song? Because like I feel like that would take so much just like courage to just like, you know, kind of like pour yourself out into like music like that. You know, like for you, is that like is that like a hard process, or is that not really something that like you can do? Can you do it like very easily?
Something like Worth It. I think. Actually, a lot of my best songs, a lot of my songs that I'm not trying to get like a certain made up story across, they're very easy. And I don't know if it's because of how I started this and how it's been since the jump, but I don't have any issue. Nothing, like I don't feel like, I guess there's a couple songs that like I didn't want to release because they're very private and stuff, but I don't feel the need to hide anything from my fan base. I feel like people listening and supporting me, I don't have much, like, I don't know. I don't see a problem with being completely transparent myself. So those aren't hard for me. They come to me very easy. And I think I think it's just because of how much practice I've had. Songs like Forgiven, songs like Worth It. Like, that's all stuff that, like, it just hits so deep, and I came up doing that music. So I feel like, you know, just being very transparent comes second nature to me, and those aren't hard for me. And a lot of times those songs just click into me. Like I don't even have to do anything. Like I play the beat and it just automatic. I don't know how to describe it. It automatically just fills my head with words, and I just write it down, and that's what the fuck it is, you know?
Yeah.
The delivery sometimes takes work, but like if I want to say something a certain way, but outside of that, the words just come for sure.
Yeah. So like, and like you don't have to answer this if you don't want, but like, is Worth It about like a friend of yours like passing and stuff? Like,
yeah, I feel when I wrote that, like for sure there's a section in it where I shout one of my homies out who passed away, but back where I'm from on Cape is a huge heroin epidemic, like a huge one. So like HBO did a series called Heroin Massachusetts, and it's like based on Cape Cod, how many overdoses per population we have, and it's like an extremely high rate, and how many deaths we have.
Yeah.
So I just felt like at that time I was still living in Massachusetts, and I just felt like I should touch base with I should just relate to as many people as possible. And saying any line about like drugs and passing away, I just felt like that generalization can help and hit so many people so deep. So I was just like, you know what, let me just like put these words that are mine into a general term so that it can hit more people, so more people can feel this, so people can relate, so they know that they're not alone, etc. You know?
Yeah. And so like with that song, like I also get like a sense of like hope from it too, you know what I mean? Like, because like, was that before you were just about to leave for LA and stuff too?
Yes.
So
yeah,
like
it was kind of like a goodbye. It was kind of like my last hurrah back in my hometown type of deal too.
yeah, dude, like that song gives me chills every time, bro. Like I
Man,
literally love it so much. Like
that's so dope. That's all. Honestly, that's what I want to do with my music. If I can give people chills and make them feel this shit, like you can't put a price on that, you know. So that's
yeah.
what I do.
And like the Forgiven music video is dope too. Like I learned so much about you. Like you've been doing this shit for a long time. You had like old videos of yourself in there and stuff, and that in the Forgiven music video, I was like, damn, dude, like Tommy's been doing this shit. Like he's been doing it for a long time.
Bro, I've been at this shit so fucking long. It's crazy. So just to watch it all full circle and get to where I'm at now, it's like, you know, I knew it was coming, but it's like surreal being where I'm at right now. You know, like back then, all I wanted was to live off music, and now I'm like, how can I make $1 million this year? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's just surreal, and sometimes I do have to take a minute and take a perspective like yours, who's watched kind of the come up, and like appreciate where I am right now. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so like those are like kind of like your deep songs, but you also can like, you know, you can drop bars too very easily. Like you can spit like absolutely no problem. Like are those songs like a little bit like what's your process for those? Like thinking like Born Hustler, kind of what was your I guess starting off, like what was like your process with like making like Born Hustler, you know? Like
so the funniest thing about Born Hustler is like Gary's like, how make a song for me and I'll get it to 1 million plays, blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, no exaggeration. When I made that song, it literally, I found the beat and I put it into Logic and I wrote and recorded the lyrics in literally like 35 minutes. Like the whole top to bottom song was like this. It was very, very quick. Wrote and recorded all the lyrics. The thing that took forever was the hook, because I literally made like 40 hooks, and I was just like, which one do I want to be more like? I want it to be anthem-y, I want it to fit right, blah blah blah. So the hook took a while, but just to get the right hook, you know, I tried so many. I sent them all to Brandon. I sent them all to like my immediate circle. And I'm like, what do you think? And they're just like, man, this is cool. But I'm just like, I need a better reaction. Then I sent Brandon the new one. He's like, that's it right there. So I ended up running with that one. But it was a very simple. I sat down, wrote the beat, and shit just started coming to me. You know, I used little tips that apply to my life that Gary also preaches, and it ended up just working neck and neck. You know, it ended up going well.
Yeah. That's awesome, because, like, I think a lot of people equate kind of, like, you're, like, a music industry, like, Gary Vee, you know? Like, I think, like, when I think of, like, a music and, like, Gary, I think of, like, you, I think of, like, Russ and, like, Saba, basically, kind of. Like, those just, like, always fucking, like, working and shit. Right. But, like...
I could see that. I could see that being, like, kind of a category, like, a Gary Vee realm of hip-hop. I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, not, like, I'm not trying to, like, box you into like a group or anything. Like you're obviously way more like.
No, I didn't take it like that. I'm just saying I could definitely see how that's like. You know, I could see that being like a category of artists, like people who are always grinding, Gary's pushing, etc. You know.
Yeah. So like, kind of like with you, you said like you keep your circle small and stuff. Like I know you've only collabed with like a handful of artists, at least like from what I've seen on like SoundCloud and like stuff like that. Like what's kind of your process with like that? Because I know like Dustin Hill just because I found him from like your song Why and stuff, and like I've talked to him a little bit, and he's literally an amazing kid, like so fucking talented at what he does too. Like what's kind of your process with like, do you just kind of vibe and like find people then, or like how do you kind of go about picking who you want to work with and stuff?
I mean, typically it's just energy first. Like I have to make the energy has to be right. People have to be like they have to be someone I actually like to want to work with, unless they have a big name that I feel is going to benefit my brand. But I don't know. My reason for not, I mean, I do a lot of feature verses because people want me on verses, and I'm not going to turn down anybody who has a pretty good following. But in terms of my stuff, I feel like my people listen to me for me. I don't know. There's a lot of artists, when I hear their shit and I hear like someone on their shit, I'm not necessarily thrilled about having someone else. Like I would rather a verse from the artist that I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And that's just a personal preference. Like I think that's why I don't, is because I know what I want to hear when I'm listening to whatever artist I'm listening to. When I'm listening to a Russ feature, when I'm listening to a Russ song, I don't really want to hear anybody else.
Yeah.
I like Russ, so I want to listen to Russ for a Russ song, but I think it's essential for building brands.
Yeah. And like the collabs you do have though, they really they just mold well with you. I feel like Mickey Shiloh and like Dustin Hill, like they're very flowy, and then you kind of come in with the the verse, and it's very hard, it just complements very well with each other. That classic kind of
right. I think that that's also it's those people, like the people I've worked with, this girl Blue that I work with, Dustin Hill and Mickey, those are all very close friends of mine. Like they're cool. I'm cool with them. Not as much Dustin as the other two, but I'm cool with Dustin. Like he's my little bro. Like I've been kind of guiding him for fucking years now,
Yeah.
He's been me beats to make classics for years now. So I think that's my direct circle, and I think that's why it clashes so well. We all know what we do well, and we just kind of capitalize on it,
Yeah. You just had a show recently with him in LA, didn't you?
Yeah, it was tight as fuck. It was a really good show.
Yeah, how'd that go? Was it fun?
It was really good. It was a busy spot, a really reputable venue too. So that's mainly why I did it more than anything. It's just it's a really nice venue, and we were able to pull a bunch of people there. So it was
dope. So do you travel back and forth a lot to Cape Cod and stuff, or not really?
Not so much Cape Cod. I'll visit there a couple times a year, but New York and LA I do travel a lot.
Yeah.
Back and east to west, but that's pretty much it. My family's in Connecticut, which is right outside of New York, so I'll visit them pretty frequently too.
Yeah. I saw you recently brought your pig back from, was it, I don't remember where on the East Coast, but somewhere back from the East Coast.
Connecticut.
That's
Connecticut.
How is I assume being vegan is very easy in California to do. So how kind of was that transition? What made you want to do that, have that lifestyle?
So I have this pet pig, and I was 3.5 or 4 years ago, I was eating ham next to my pig, and I'm just how can I justify this? I'm how can I justify loving this animal so much, but taking part in killing animals of the same kind? That's loving your dog to death, but being okay with eating dog. It's just, and I'm just you know what? I watched a documentary on pigs, and then I watched 3 more documentaries, and I was just damn, my family has diabetes in it, and there's a lot of heart problems in my family and shit. So I'm this is a great way to avoid that and improve my health. So I'm me and my ex watched it together. We got the pig together, and I was let's try this for a week. And so we tried it for a week, and it was very easy. And I'm just and honestly, I feel very clear. So I was just let me just try it for a month. And then I was just I would never go back to it, just because I feel how I feel now, and I know how beneficial it's been for my health and how much better I feel, and just not taking part in, the destruction of the earth as much, in the animals, I'm a huge animal lover. I don't want to take part in hurting these animals or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's actually a lot of statistics and stuff with how much the animal industry and the farming industry contributes to greenhouse gases significantly more than even industrial the industrial revolution and stuff. And I think that's
100%,
crazy.
It's the biggest cause, and it's just, and the worst part about it is a lot of it is not even food we're eating. Most of this fucking it's a huge percentage, 40% of milk and dairy and meat and all that gets wasted. So I'm we're doing all this damage, we're doing all this torture, we're doing all this terrible things to the earth and to animals that doesn't need to be done, and it's literally for no reason. We have the resources now. We are given, yes, humans were made to eat meat, blah blah blah. But like in the end of the day, in the fucking just old times don't match up to new times. Like you can't say we were born doing this so we should still do it. Okay, we were born as white people, we were born having slaves, doesn't mean we still do it. We were born in Egypt, they were born with slaves and they were beheading people, doesn't mean we still do it. So I just think that people should rethink second guess tradition. You know what I mean? I don't think that we should be looking backwards for any of the answers for how we're living today. I think we should be looking at the now and what our options are now and capitalizing on that.
Yeah, I respect that. That's actually, like, my sister's like very vegan, and like I dabble and stuff, so like I thought that was interesting because like that's a connection that, you know, like I kind of made when I remember you're like a very big advocate for that, like on Instagram and stuff, so which I think is pretty cool, you know.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate that.
So like who you said you had a guy that you shot that music video with for Nike's On My Feet and stuff, you know?
Yeah, Magic.
Is he kind of like your main guy or not? Or like who do you go with now?
He also shot the music video for Y, but I wouldn't say he's my main guy right now because he's back on the East Coast and he has this big business of his own, so he's hella busy. But I would say my main guy right now is this dude Blue Creative. He shot my On Edge music video and he's just out here in LA. So we work. It's easiest to work with him just because he's out here already, you know.
Yeah, and then do you so like once you moved to LA, did kind of everything like you getting like connections and stuff kind of like is that just a lot easier being out there? Because like I just can't, like, for me, like, that's kind of where I want to go and stuff. Like, was there just, like, a lot more, like, resources available to you? Or kind of, like, how did your network kind of grow once you moved?
Yeah, so once I moved out here, I transferred with Verizon Wireless. I was working at Verizon. They transferred me out here. And honestly, all my connections came from working a day job. You know, I had a day job while I was doing music still because my royalties weren't paying enough to just do the music thing by itself. So, I met a bunch of people. Every customer I dealt with, I had a lot of time to build rapport with them. When you're buying a phone, you have a lot of time, like you spend a lot of time with the phone person typically. So I had like given 20 to 40 minutes with every customer. I just click with them and I'd be like, oh, what do you do? Da da da. And they'd always result in like, outside, what do you do? And I'm always be like, you know, plug them in on my Instagram. So over time, I mean, you deal with hundreds of customers a day. Over time, you just start making connections. And then I transferred to T-Mobile and went part-time because I was making enough royalty-wise, and moved up to the Valley because I was in Long Beach. I moved up to the Valley where all the entertainment is, and I met stupid amounts of people over here in North Hollywood because I was working at the T-Mobile here. And that's where all my connections came from. It's basically just meeting people at T-Mobile on my day job. Like that's a crucial piece to anybody who wants to move out to LA to get it, is like have some type of job lined up where you're going to be meeting people, because you can be in LA. That doesn't mean you're going to meet anyone. And even if you do meet them, who says they're going to want to take the time and actually hear you out if they're not meeting you on an actual basis where they get to see who you are, you know?
Yeah. So you literally like just your process has literally been like you just like you're in it all the time, like in the trenches, like grinding for that. Like that's like it's amazing to me because like I feel like so many people like preach that, you know, kind of like, you know, be active with your fans, like be, you know, like be in the DMs with your fans and you like respond to everybody's DMs and shit, but like not that many people kind of like actually do that. But like you are like literal proof that like, you know, what it like being in it like actually does work, you know.
I will say most people don't have this connection with their followers that like I do. Like honestly, I respond to more DMs than anyone I know, factually speaking, like literally hours a day, and I still clear them up. Like it's a nonstop thing, you know. So that's just like a part of this job. Given I don't have a day job anymore, so that's kind of like putting in the hours, typing on my phone to people. That's kind of like my job, you know, outside of the creation, which doesn't feel like a job. That's like a job. You know?
Yeah. So do you feel like you're kind of like in like this like, how do you feel career wise in terms of like where you want to go and like where you kind of, because I feel like you're at like a level, but I feel like you're on the verge of making like the next, you know what I mean, like kind of like blowing onto like another level, if that makes any sense, you know.
Yeah. I think that I am on the verge of the next level for sure. this isn't like public knowledge. I haven't like spoke about this at all, but I actually have I just got a distribution certain deal, so to say. It's not contractual, so I'm not tied to it. But basically, they're partners with a bunch of the bigger labels and a bunch of the bigger blogs. So when I release stuff now, I'm going through a distributor that has a lot more access to bigger channels than I do. You know, I don't have access to half the channels that they do. So every release going forward, outside of maybe one more single, is going to be going through a distribution company. So it's going to be shooting to a lot more people. And the next music that's coming out, I have like a whole project ready to drop right now. The music on that is 100% the next level and a whole different side of my brand that no one's ever seen. And I think it's just a product of me being around so many LA people who are working and like knowing and just seeing what it takes to, get to the next level of where I want to be. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. This is like total random side note, but like, did Adam22 ever DM you back?
No, he never hit me back.
I'm disappointed because I follow you and Brandon on Twitter, and like, I remember, well, like at first, JID was like, we should get like, I need people to open up for me, and I was like, Rowlan is like the perfect like Dreamville, like you would be like a perfect like signee to that like label, absolutely.
I agree, bro. I agree so much. I actually, this is a cool little story. I actually met J. Cole like a month ago, and I waited outside his studio for hours.
Really?
I saw him on the phone earlier, and I was like, yo, I'm waiting out here. And I was staying right behind the studio, so he went out, and when he came out to end the session, this was like 6 a.m. I was like, I'm like, yo, can I give you something? And he's like, yeah, what is it? I'm just like, it's a hard drive with a bunch of my songs. And I think he listened to them because one of my songs, I'm like, you gotta know. And like 2 days after I gave him that stuff, he was on a live show, and he's on stage, and he's like talking about something. He's like, what's the root of all evil? You gotta know. You gotta know. And it was just like too synonymous with like the little catchy part in that song that I sent in. So I'm like, I think he opened my thumb drive, and I think he went through my shit, so that's dope.
Dude, that's awesome. Like, dang, that's crazy, dude. I would love to see you just like get that, like be on that, like that'd be insane.
That would be dope.
Like, what do you do you have any like, do you feel like you're kind of how do I question this? I'm sorry, I'm tripping on my words. For like people like that, and stuff, do you feel like you need to constantly kind of like be in their ear, or you just kind of like want to throw your stuff out and just be like, if they like it, it's gonna stick, like if it's meant to be, it'll be, like kind of like what's your like thought process with like that?
I mean, that's my hero of all time. Like, if I were to put a musician in a spot that has influenced me the most, that's J. Cole. So, like for me, I think it's a matter of, I wouldn't say be in their ear. It crossed my plate. Like, I was staying in an Airbnb in LA until my apartment was ready. And I saw him outside on the phone while I was walking up. I'm like, that's too small. There's no coincidences. So I'm like, you know what? I've wasted a lot of time in my life. Let me waste a couple hours and be out here. But I would never like hit him again. Like, I hit people maybe once or twice, and then after that, I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm not bitter about it. Like, I get it. Maybe you didn't see the hype in me. Maybe you didn't like what you heard. But you will hear about me again. So, like, when we cross paths again, don't act some type of way. Just be normal with me. Act like you should. So, when it comes to that, I think that's all it is. I'm not discouraged by it. I'm not constantly in people's ear. I think that I'm going to give you your shot to see potential in me. And if you don't see the potential, it is what it is. You'll see me soon. You know what I mean? So That's kind of like how I approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like definitely like a good approach too, because you don't want to like overextend yourself, and then, people then don't see like the value, like, now. Yeah.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
I guess kind of like, what are your, like, what can we expect from you, in the future here?
A project's coming really soon, and just expect 2019 to have a lot more features, and I'm probably gonna flood the game with music. I'm gonna do like a rebrand, just kind of like refresh the image, maybe just think about how I can market myself a little better to fit with a generational pull, like, you know, just kind of like younger generation. I'm kind of gonna see it make that happen.
Yeah.
Just expect a rebranding and expect a bunch of new music for sure.
Absolutely. Well, man, like, I really don't got like much else for you. Like, I really appreciate
it's all
you.
Good, man. This was a really good. It was a really good podcast. I'm glad we got to get on the phone. A lot of good questions and a lot of stuff I haven't really got to touch base on.
Yeah, dude. You can, like, if you have any shout outs or anything you want to say, just like, you know, you can close.
No, man. Just shout out to you for listening to my music and wanting to get me on here. I appreciate all the dope questions, and I hope you keep listening to the music, and I hope you like the new shit. I'm sure you will.
Absolutely, bud. I promise I will. All right, man.
All right, bro. Well, good talking to you. I'm glad we got to touch base, man.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.